Okay, I've been putting off making this video, but I think it's time. Today is exactly 5 weeks since my double mastectomy, and to be honest, it's been tricky and I have struggled a bit post-surgery, and I think that's why it's been hard for me to sit down and make this video, because I don't want to focus on negatives. I don't want this video to be super negative, but I also don't want to gloss over the negatives and pretend that I didn't feel the way I felt. I mostly create content and videos and things about cancer in the hopes that they might help somebody else going through something similar. And so I don't want to just get on here and be like, oh, it was fine, it was great, and gloss over it for then someone else to be thinking, hey, it wasn't that easy for me. On the flip side, to get on here and be like, I had a really, really hard time, doesn't mean that somebody else who has the same thing is going to have a hard time. So just that little disclaimer at the start that this is my experience, and take from it what you will. It doesn't mean it'll be the same as anybody else's. So on that note, let's rewind. Let's go back to a couple of days before surgery. I filmed a little clip packing my bag and getting ready. Surgery week has arrived, so I am starting to pack to go and stay with my parents. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Corinne. I'm 35, I'm single, I usually live alone, and halfway through last year I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. So I've done 6 months of chemotherapy and immunotherapy, then I had 3 weeks off, and now I am ready for surgery. I'm having a double mastectomy. So I'm doing all the things to prepare. I'm going to be staying with my parents for as long as I need to, basically. I did stay with them for the 6 months while I did chemo, and now I'm going back over there. I have a 35 kilo bulldog. He's a big buff head, and there's just no way I could look after him, let alone even look after myself after surgery. So my understanding with the double mastectomy is that the first 2 weeks I will need quite a bit of support. I can't drive for 2 weeks, and I can't lift anything over 2 to 3 kilos for those 2 weeks. So straight away, I can't do pretty much anything for Mason. I just can't risk him, like jumping on me, or, even grabbing hold of his lead, or I'm going to have to be very, very careful with such a big dog. And then cooking and just general household living, I'm going to need help. So they're going to support me through that. And then we'll see how I feel after those 2 weeks. I can see myself staying with them for at least a month, possibly 2 months, but we'll see how that goes. Right now, I'm just trying to pack things for the first little while. I don't want to pack too much. I don't need to go crazy because I can always pop back to my house. It's only a 10-minute drive from my parents, thankfully. But yeah, it's just hard to know what I might need. So I'm going to stay there tonight, because tomorrow my mum and I are going to Maruya, which is just about 2 hours away. I need to have a radioactive tracer put in so that they can find the lymph nodes that they want to remove. So that I am having some lymph nodes removed on the side where I found the lump of my breast cancer. There is no radiologist in my local area at the moment, so that's why I have to go 2 hours away to get that done. And then the next day, so Wednesday, will be surgery day. I've been told that I'm likely to be in for about 2 nights. It could just be one. We'll see what happens, but that's what's going on. And then I'll go home. And I just have no idea what to pack in terms of clothes. So mum found some great button-up pajamas, just sort of short sleeve, short shorts in Best and Less a couple weeks ago. So I ran in and I got 2 pairs of those, and then she had an old pair in that style that she's loaning to me as well. So I've got 3 pairs of pajamas, but what to wear in terms of actual clothes, I just have no idea what will fit well. I have no idea about my arm movement as to what I'll actually be able to get on. It's so hard to know. So for surgery day, I've packed this little set. I've actually worn this to have when I had endometriosis surgery. So it's like a little track pant shorts and then a little zip up jumper to go with that. So I will wear that in with this little black shirt on surgery day. For tomorrow, I'm just packing a shirt and some shorts. And then I've popped in like my button-up shirts that I wore a lot of during during chemo. They were great for being able to access my port. So I've read a lot online that button-up shirts are really good because then you don't need to lift your arms above your head or anything like that. Tried to put in like some comfy-ish pants, and then I have thrown in some just t-shirts. I don't know how long it is in between getting home and when I'll have the ability with my arms to put on t-shirts. Like, it's just, I don't know.
On the Tuesday, we went up to Maria to get the radioactive dye. We stopped in Vidala to get a delicious milkshake and check out their animals on the way. It was a really simple procedure. It took a while because you had to wait for the dye to sink in and then get a scan, but it was nice and easy and over before I knew it.
So my surgery was booked in as the first of the day, which means I got to the hospital bright and early. Mum took me in and dropped me off. I've had quite a few medical procedures, surgeries, things, so I have been under anaesthetic before and been through that whole process, so I wasn't nervous about anything like that. One thing I was really nervous about was getting the cannula in to administer the drugs because in one of my previous surgeries where I had my port placed, they had a lot of trouble. It was really painful, not a great experience. Pleased to say this time the anaesthetist did it himself. It was one and done, straight in my arm, no issues whatsoever. So the number one thing that I was nervous about turned out to be an absolute non-event. It was totally fine. The staff at the hospitals are always amazing. The nurse that took me in for my surgery had actually done, I think she was there when I had my port done. So she was amazing. We already knew each other, and she was so friendly and kind and just amazing and really helped make me feel calm. The thing about this whole process is that I don't think I felt that nervous going into this surgery. Obviously I knew it was a big surgery. I was a little bit unsure about recovery and things like that, but for the most part, I am very trusting that the surgical team know what they're doing. Like I said, I'm not worried about going under anesthetic, so I don't even really think about that at all. But yeah, I had complete faith and trust in my surgeon, and so I wasn't worried per se. There's always a little bit of nerves. I think about what it's going to be like when you wake up. So I went in, laid on the table, and the surgeon was like, "What do you want to listen to?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you've put me on the spot. I didn't know I had to pick a song." Anyway, and then he's like, "Oh, I had someone the other day pick country music." I was like, "Yeah, that's what I listen to." Anyway, I said, "Put on some Taylor Swift," and the anaesthetist started singing the lyrics of a song from Reputation. And anyway, Tay-Tay, what I remember is Tay-Tay came on. I cannot remember the song. Tay-Tay came on, the anaesthetist was like, "Okay, you'll get a bit drowsy now," and I was out. Done. That was it. I don't remember waking up. I keep trying to bring that memory to the forefront, and I don't remember waking up. So I think my first memories after surgery, I'm on the ward. I just cannot, a lot of my other, when I had my port, when I've had other things done, I remember waking up. I just can't, which is fine, it doesn't matter, but I can't remember waking up. I just remember being on the ward and being awake. I don't remember coming out of it or being groggy or anything like that. So the surgery took about 2 or 3 hours. It wasn't super long. I personally made the decision to go for a aesthetic flat closure. So if you don't know a lot about breast cancer surgeries or mastectomies, basically there's lots of different things you can have. So you could have a lumpectomy, which is where they just cut out where the cancer was. So all of these were options for me, but some are more recommended or less recommended. So the lumpectomy wasn't recommended for me because I had my original lump, but then they'd also found little spots in the same breast that were smaller but still sections. He would have had to cut out a lot to make sure that they got it all and had the clear margins and things. So the lumpectomy wasn't recommended. My surgeon actually recommended a single mastectomy, so just to take off the right. I had E-cup boobs, and so I didn't want to be lopsided. So I chose to have the double. I could have had reconstruction on one. I could have had reconstruction on both. I could have had implants, or I could have had a deep flap where they take parts of fat from other parts of your body and then reconstruct using your own body tissue. I personally didn't want to go through that. I didn't want multiple surgeries. I didn't want an abdominal incision that also had to heal. I knew from pretty much the second I knew I had breast cancer that if I was having the mastectomy, it would be flat. So basically what that means is that they just remove everything and then they just do a scar that's like a really neat line across your chest. And that's what I opted for, and I'm really, really happy with that. Coming out of surgery, I was very, very happy with my choice. I got to see what my flat chest looked like that same day. The surgeon came around to do some rounds. So my mum and dad came, they came and saw me, and then they had left, and then the surgeon came around to just check how everything was. And I was wearing a binder. So just this white piece of material that wrapped all the way around me really, really tight to create compression. Basically because when they cut something off of you, your body then wants to fill that space. It realizes something's missing and it will try and fill that space with fluid. We don't want that to happen. So the compression pushes it down to try and avoid fluid buildup. So I was in a binder. The surgeon came around to check how it was going and he just wanted to see. So it had very thin dressing on it. So like you couldn't see the scars. There was just like a bit of white going all the way across. But he was kind of like, are you up to like seeing, are you? And I was like, yeah. And so I kind of just like looked down and I was like, yeah, cool. Like it's not as confronting as I expected and it's kind of what I thought it was going to be. And I'm really happy with the flat. I haven't regretted or wanted to change that decision since making it. So really, really happy with going flat. When he came around for that chat, he also let me know that my genetic testing had come in. We had some mix up. There was some trouble with where my hospital should have referred my genetic testing and some staffing issues. And anyway, it took me a long time to get genetics. And he let me know that they'd come in actually just before my surgery, but he'd opted not to tell me just before my surgery because he didn't want to overwhelm me in that moment. So after surgery, he let me know that the genetics had come in. And I have a BRCA2 mutation. So my first words out of my mouth were like, oh, so we did the right things, referring to the fact that I had the double. So obviously when I made the decision to have the double, for me, it was more about like how my body would feel. But having the BRCA2, quite a few people have preventative double mastectomies to reduce their risk of cancer if you've got a BRCA2 gene. So having the double would be the recommended for my genetics anyway. So I was really, really happy with the choice I made. Not thrilled to have the BRCA gene. It has other implications for other types of cancer that are now, I have a higher chance of getting and things like that. So that wasn't great news. It also means that my sister's now being tested and things like that. So not thrilled about the BRCA, but very, very happy with my surgery decision. My doctor came around the next day. So I'd been there for one night. And he was like, you can go home. Like you don't need to stay 2 nights. If you want to go, you can go. And I just like burst into tears. And I was like, I don't know. Like, should I be here for 2 nights or is 1 night enough? Like, I don't know. And he was like, well, some people want to be in their own bed and some people would rather be here with the nurses. And I was like, I want both of those things. Like, I don't know how I feel. Like everything, I was just so emotional. It was just, I don't know. It's so hard to describe now, feeling very stable and like far less emotional and much better about everything. It's so hard to describe why everything just hit me. I don't know if it was just the buildup of, I've been going through cancer treatment for like 9-10 months and then it all culminates to this big surgery and then that's done and then all there is to do is like heal, and it was such an emotional time. So I opted to stay in hospital for 2 nights. I really, really, really hated the drains. And I don't know how mentally prepared I was for the drains. Like I knew I was going to have them, but I think it was always something that it was like, we'll deal with that when you've got them or if you get them. And then I had them and I was kind of like, I hate these things. I don't know what to do with them. I don't want them. They didn't look like the drains I'd seen on TikTok because they were slightly different to the ones that they use in America. And I just hated them. So if you don't know, the drains are also about getting rid of fluid. And so there's like a tiny little cut in your side. It's tiny, and then the drains go in. Now, I know since they've been pulled out what they look like. I didn't really know beforehand, but the pipe on them, is that the word? Anyway, it's about that long. Kind of goes in there and then comes out the side, and I can put some pictures and stuff, but it drains to a bag and then you get fluid and blood and things in there. And you need to have a certain output level for them to come out. So the one on the left where I didn't have any lymph nodes removed, that came out within 7 days. And then the one on the right where I did also have lymph nodes removed, so there was a bit more fluid buildup, that was in there for 10 days. I just struggled with it. I don't want to like scare people, and that's where I'm really trying to be careful about how I share my negative experiences, because I don't know if it was about the drains so much as it was just about me. You know, like I see plenty of people online that had a perfectly fine experience with the drains, and you know, they're not nice, they're awkward, they're annoying, but they were fine with them, and I just didn't feel like that. I really, really, really hated them. I was upset. I just, yeah, mentally, I just struggled. I struggled a lot. And if the way I'm sharing this all feels like a bit of a jumble, it's probably because that's how I felt in those weeks, to be honest. So I went home from hospital. I had a little kit from the CWA. The CWA, the Country Women's Association in my local area, make these bags and they donate them to the hospital, and the hospital then give them to women with breast cancer. So in here, I had a little seat belt protector that they made nice and soft to wear in the car. I didn't love it, but it is really good to have something when you're leaving the hospital to just kind of protect against your chest and not have your seatbelt push against it. I still kind of like held the seatbelt kind of off my chest, but then they make these. So these are to go under your arm where you've had any lymph nodes removed. So you basically just sit this here, and it just helps with like the compression on that area, and then it helps to keep your arm off your incision site, and it makes things more comfortable. I had this under my arm probably for like 4 or 5 days. I slept with it under my arm for definitely, I think the whole time I had the drains, and probably a little bit longer, just for comfort. I did have to sleep on my back, particularly with the drains, because they're in your side, so you're kind of like, which is not the most comfortable. I've seen people like hire recliners or get a wedge cushion. I didn't do any of that, mainly because of the monetary thing. Like, it just wasn't necessary. My breast care nurse was great at explaining to me what was and wasn't worth spending money on. And so I just propped myself up with pillows, like, you know, all the pillows, and then, yeah, so that was very handy. And then the other thing that they make is this little drain bag. So you sit your drains in this little bag, and then this can kind of go like around your neck or around your arm. I didn't love putting things around my neck. The drains just felt too heavy, and around my neck when I'd had surgery was uncomfortable, but my drains lived in this little bag. You can also get waterproof ones for when you shower. I did have a shower seat in the shower, which was really, really handy. And then I literally just sat on the shower seat and I just laid my drains on my knees. I didn't have a special bag or anything. Yeah, I didn't pin them to anything. I know some people are like, oh, pin your drains to this or that. My surgeon in particular was really against having them attached to anything where I could accidentally pull away from where it was attached and like pull the drain out. So anyway, I used a little bag, and then in the shower, I just laid them on my lap. The other thing I bought and loved was this mastectomy cushion. It goes around. I think it gave me a sense of security more so than anything. It does help a little with like, I don't know, compression-y, like around you, but it's all about security for me. I really used this in the first few days when I went back to mum and dad's and the dogs were around, and as much as I tried to like keep away from them so they couldn't jump on me or anything, having this as just like that little extra security blanket that nothing was going to bump me or knock me or like jump on top of me and be able to like hurt my incisions. This I love this. I thought this was great. I went home from the hospital and I laid in bed for days. I cried. I was just miserable. I don't know. I felt so prepared beforehand. And then once it happened, I think I just had that thing where it was like laying in bed and I went, oh my God, like I actually have to heal from this now, and it's going to take time, and then I have nowhere to be and nothing to do. And so then all of the things that I'd been, you know, just kind of pushing through, and, you know, the momentum of chemo and cancer treatment, and then it was kind of like, it all hit me. And I was just emotional. I had zero pain. I didn't feel anything. So it wasn't that it was like a bad physical experience. You know, the drains were awkward and uncomfortable, but they weren't painful. And my incisions themselves, I felt nothing. I didn't take any strong pain medication or anything when I left the hospital. From waking up from surgery, I didn't take any pain medication stronger than paracetamol. So I took paracetamol for a few days to try and like keep on top of it in case it was masking any kind of pain. I didn't feel sore at all. Uncomfortable, absolutely. A little bit tricky to like push myself up or like maneuver my body because, you know, you're trying not to use this area and you're trying not to like disrupt your drains and things. So definitely discomfort, but no pain, which is amazing. I did start to then have like probably a few days after like real sensations of, I don't know, just I was so sensitive, I guess I would say. And so it felt like things were like rubbing or itching, that kind of thing. I did get a few little like nerve pains, just like a shooting pain where they had, you know, moved the nerves around, but pain in general, almost non-existent, which was amazing. It was really, for me, it was the emotional side where I was just sad. I really was. And it probably took, you know, it easily took 3 weeks for me to start to feel a bit more like myself. I really wasn't filming anything. I really wasn't like posting on social media. And that, for some people, that'll sound silly. Like, of course you weren't, that's not important. But it's something I've been doing consistently throughout this process and even before then. And I didn't know how to show up. I didn't know what I wanted to share. I think I try to share like really genuinely what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, but I was just in this kind of state where I didn't even know how to explain why I was so upset or what I was struggling with. I was just so emotional and easily took 3 weeks to start getting a bit more back to normal. I am still 5 weeks out. You know, like I can cry at the drop of a hat. I had a PT appointment yesterday. So I go and see the PT and it's all about exercises I can do for my range of movement, which is actually looking really good. Like, look at me go. Because that's the other thing, is that you have very limited arm movement when you come out from that, and you've got to stretch and do exercises to kind of build your way back up to that. So when I saw her, everything's looking good, but even she was kind of like, how are you doing? And then tears. There's so many tears, which I know is healthy. And, you know, I'd rather show my emotion and have my emotions than try and bottle it all up. But yeah, pre-surgery, I just had no idea how this was all going to hit me. And it's been a lot, but I can sit here now, I can talk about it, I have a smile on my face, I feel good, I feel positive, I'm ready to like move forward, and I'm doing so much better. So if you're in the thick of it now, right now, just keep plodding along, because there is light. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So once I was a bit more healed and the dressings came off and the drains were out, it's all about my exercises. So like lifting your arms, these ones, to stretch it all out, because it's all quite tight. You can imagine they've cut it and then it's like they put it back together and everything in here is a bit tight. So it's a lot of arm exercises, things like that. I also started using a scar tape, a silicone scar tape, and a silicone gel, just to try and help with making sure that my scar heals really neatly. So what I do personally is after I shower in the morning, I do the silicone gel along my scar line. And then at night I put on the tape. Using both, I'm not sure which is better. I did a bit of research online and found out you could do both. My concern with the gel was that it might be rubbing off. So at the moment I'm still wearing a compression bra. I will be wearing this for 6 to 8 weeks. I chose to buy the Prairie Wear Prima Hugger, or Hugger Prima, and bought it in this pretty pink color because it does make me smile. I do enjoy the pink, but I'm still wearing that. And so I was a little bit worried about the scar gel like rubbing off onto that. And so yeah, so I'm doing both, doing gel and the tape. The idea is to have the silicone on as much as possible. And that's what helps to, I believe it helps to keep moisture within the scar, and then it helps to flatten it, which then reduces the chance of keloiding or hypertrophic scars or any of those kind of issues where the scar pops out or doesn't heal properly. So I've been doing that. And then I've also been doing a scar massage. So I tend to do that when I'm in the shower, just because I don't want to put any kind of moisturizer on the scar when I'm going to put the silicone gel on. So I just use like my Mugu body wash and massage. You massage above, below, and then on the scar, getting, you know, being really gentle with it initially and then working up as it heals more. So trying to avoid that tightness and the scar sticking. I believe it can get kind of like sticky to the things around it and underneath it and stuff like that. So doing that scar massage as well. All right, that's been a little rundown of my experience. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. I'm really happy to talk about, you know, the whole mastectomy experience, choosing to go flat, all of that kind of stuff. Happy to chat, happy to help people out if you are going through the same thing. If you're just intrigued or interested, like pop it in the comments. Hopefully this has been a little bit helpful if you are going through something similar. Yeah, like I said, I really personally struggled a lot emotionally. It's going to be different for everybody, especially if you're somebody who's recently been diagnosed and you're jumping straight into surgery. I'm assuming that's a very different mental experience than having gone through 6 months of chemotherapy and then having surgery. I'm sure it comes with all of its own struggles. You know, I'd had all of these months to contemplate and think about surgery and the choices I was making, whereas I know some people, it's just like a sudden, you're in, this is on. So I imagine that's quite difficult too. It's always helpful to chat about it. I think it's helpful to have as much information as you can, but to remember that we're all individual and your experience is not necessarily going to be the same as mine. And yeah, just take everything with a grain of salt and just go that one little step at a time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.